Christina.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Excited for this one tonight.
I know this is a good one. So, quick background. So today, we like to talk about celebrity estates because, they're juicy. We know who they are, and we get to share their stories. So today we're talking about Hugh Hefner from Playboy. And a little bit of background. So when we do these stories, we have to research the estates. Typically, we either look through a book or the good old World Wide Web. And it's amazing what you can find. And the reason that you can find all of these juicy details about people's estates is because once it goes to court, it's public record. And there's literally these like trolling agencies that are able to track whose estates are filed. And the minute a name pops up that's popular, they just exploit it and disclose it to all the medias, and we get all these reports. So it's not hard at all to get all these public details about any estate that goes through the courts. And as most people know, if you have a will, it has to go through the probate court, and if you don't have a will, it has to go through the courts. So basically, anytime you don't do estate planning, it's going to become public record, and anytime you do a will, it's going to become public record. So with that in mind, we're going to talk about Hugh Hefner, and really there's not a lot of information about Hugh Hefner's estate because, drum roll please, he did a trust. And the beauty of a trust is that it's able to manage all of your estate assets and distributions without going to court. So, as an estate planning attorney, and I'm sure Christina can agree, trusts are a wonderful tool to help families keep them out of court, keep their estate and family and all of those details and even conflict out of court. So we have learned that Hugh Hefner did a trust, and because of that, there's really not a lot of details out there. We did discover that, unfortunately, something had to be brought to the court's attention. Either it was neglected in the trust, or we're not really sure because we don't practice in that state. But we were able to confirm that a trust was, in fact, created by Hugh Hefner. He left his assets to his third wife and to his children, and it appears everything was distributed without hitch because nobody filed any petitions to contest anything. They did discover in his trust that he had a substance abuse clause, meaning if anybody was on drugs, they would not be entitled to their inheritance. So this is interesting to know because it turns out Hugh Hefner was not a fan of drugs, and he was not supportive of anybody using drugs. So we get a little bit of insight, but that's, again, only because the document had to be admitted to the court for a minor detail. Other than that, looks like the trust was well documented. He also was updating it regularly. So as far as I'm concerned, Hugh Hefner did an excellent job with his estate plan, as he should. And that's kind of the not-so-juicy Hugh Hefner celebrity estate story.
Yeah, so I think a lot of us, when we think of Hugh Hefner, we really don't think of a person who wanted their life to be kept private. I mean, he had a whole show that welcomed you into his home, and he got down to the nitty-gritty and, showed you his life, except when it came to his estate plan. He had a good legal team who explained to him that trusts are private documents, that they don't get publicized, they don't get filed with the surrogate's court or the court in the state that you live in, to become public knowledge. Here in New York, you could go right online, you type in somebody's name, and you could see if they had a will, if it's been filed with surrogate's court here in New York. You could see who they left their assets to. You could look in the petition to see who filed to be appointed their executor, the administrator. And as Leslie was saying, based on the research, a petition was filed in the courts there, but it was only because the trustee was looking to sell some kind of asset. And again, that kind of law, California law, we don't practice, so I don't know why the trustee had to do that. But even though he had to do the petition, the entire trust was not brought to light. The only thing that was actually ever brought to light was the fact that there was this, drug clause that if somebody was on any substance or had any substance abuse problem, they would lose out in their inheritance. Which is actually a really great clause. Unfortunately, a lot of people today suffer with that. When people are doing their estate plans, a lot of times their children are, teenagers, or their grandchildren are teenagers or babies, and nobody knows how their, children, grandchildren are going to turn out. Also, as Leslie was saying, with trust, when you have a will, Leslie said a lot of people really, know that when you have a will, it still has to go through the court. I think that most people don't know that. They think that people have wills and, okay, I have a will and that's it. What do you mean I have to go to court? I thought I did a will because, and I was that family. When my grandfather was sick, we went to family friend, they did a will and we thought that was it. And then when we got told, oh, no, you have to come back and we have to probate it. And what do you mean you have to probate it? And it's going to take 6 months. And back then we were lucky. 6 months was fast. Nowadays, even though we're out of the COVID time, courts are still so backed up. I recently called Suffolk County Surrogates Court because I have a small estate proceeding. That's when an estate is valued under $50,000. I filed the petition April 27th. They told me they were only looking at petitions for the first week in March. Here we are, middle of June. So you guys could just see how long the process is taking just for them to review them. So really, a good estate plan is involving trusts. And there are 2 types of trusts. There are revocable trusts and irrevocable trusts. Revocable trusts, you can be your own trustee. It's a great tool to avoid probate. It's good, I think, towards the younger generations. I would say anybody 65 and younger, it's good for. Again, it's just really to avoid probate so that your loved ones don't have to go through the process and they don't have to wait over a year to distribute your assets. And then we have an irrevocable trust, which I believe is geared more towards 65 and older, or people who have illnesses, people with Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis, or things that, are not going to take them out right away, but are slowly going to make them, deteriorate, should have an irrevocable trust. You cannot be your own trustee. You can have a family member, a child, a cousin, a sibling be your trustee, but we start the clock for Medicaid purposes. So just really quickly on Medicaid, there's a 5-year look-back period for nursing home, and there's going to be a 2.5-year look-back period for home care. So getting your estate plan in order now, thinking about these things now, will save you tremendously in the future.
Yeah, thank you for the explanation. And we get a lot of calls from people saying, I want to do a trust. What kind of trust should I do? And that's a really great question. And it's really something that you need to discuss with an attorney and with your family sometimes to figure out, if you're going to do an irrevocable, there's a lot of benefits, but you do have to give up control of your assets. So you need to have somebody there that you trust that's going to do all that. Unfortunately, we've seen cases where the person who was trusted to do that is not doing it. So, it's really important to never download a trust online and fill it out. That's nothing but trouble. We've seen a lot of those as well. And just to really try to do your best to consult with an attorney about what's going to be the best plan for you, your family, and your assets. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them into the chat box or send us a personal message. Otherwise, anything you want to add, Christina?
No, just make sure that you get out and you get your estate plan done and you go to an estate planning attorney who knows all the ins and outs. So I hope everyone enjoyed this one tonight.
Yeah, be like Hugh Hefner. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.